The sun had barely risen over the sleepy town of Cedarbrook when Elena Carter tied her apron around her waist and stepped into the bustling diner. At 32, she had spent most of her adult life working at Rosie's, a quaint roadside eatery famous for its home-style pancakes and no-nonsense service. For Elena, the diner was more than just a workplace. It was her lifeline, the place where she could escape the shadows of her past and focus on one thing: making ends meet. She knew the regulars by name, had their orders memorized, and could sense their moods before they even sat down. Elena was good at her job, but that morning she had no idea her life was about to change in ways she could never have imagined. Before we start, hit the like and subscribe buttons for more exclusive news. The day started like any other. The smell of freshly brewed coffee filled the air as Elena balanced plates of scrambled eggs and toast with practiced ease. Her coworkers buzzed around her, their chatter blending into the clinking of silverware and the occasional hiss of the griddle. It was mid-morning when the diner's front door swung open, the small bell above it jingling softly. A hush fell over the room as a tall, strikingly beautiful woman walked in, her face partially obscured by a wide-brimmed hat and oversized sunglasses. She wore a casual, oversized sweater and skinny jeans, but even in her understated attire, there was an undeniable aura of glamour about her. Elena's heart skipped a beat when she realized who the mysterious guest was. It was Taylor Swift, yes, the Taylor Swift. Her mind raced as she tried to process the surreal moment. What on earth was one of the world's biggest pop stars doing in a tiny diner in Cedarbrook? Before she could dwell on it, Rosie, the diner's sharp-tongued owner, barked at her to get moving. "Don't just stand there gawking, Elena. She's a customer like any other," Rosie snapped, wiping her hands on her apron. Elena quickly grabbed a notepad and approached Taylor's table, her hands trembling slightly. "Good morning," she said, her voice soft but steady. "Can I get you started with some coffee?" Taylor looked up, her lips curving into a warm smile. "Yes, please. And some pancakes, if that's okay." Elena scribbled down the order and returned to the kitchen, trying to suppress her excitement. She had always admired Taylor Swift, not just for her music, but for her resilience and the way she connected with her fans. It felt surreal to be serving her breakfast. Determined to make a good impression, Elena made sure everything was perfect, from the crispness of the pancakes to the way the syrup was poured. When she brought the food to Taylor's table, the singer struck up a conversation. She asked about the town, the diner, and even about Elena's life. At first, Elena hesitated, unsure of how much to share, but Taylor's genuine interest put her at ease. They talked like old friends, and by the time Taylor finished her meal, Elena felt as though she had experienced a small miracle. Before leaving, Taylor handed Elena a generous tip, along with a handwritten note that read, "Thank you for your kindness. Never stop being you." Elena tucked the note into her apron pocket, her heart swelling with joy. She couldn't wait to share the experience with her coworkers, but as the day wore on, her excitement gave way to an uneasy tension. Rosie, who had been watching from the sidelines, didn't seem pleased. Later that afternoon, she called Elena into her office. "You crossed a line today," Rosie began, her voice cold and clipped. "I saw you chatting it up with that celebrity like she was your best friend. This isn't some fancy cafe, Elena. You're here to serve, not to socialize." Elena's face flushed with confusion and embarrassment. "I was just being polite," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Rosie shook her head. "Polite or not, you made us look unprofessional. I can't have that kind of behavior here. You're fired." The words hit Elena like a slap. Fired? For doing her job? She couldn't believe what she was hearing. Tears welled up in her eyes as she removed her apron and left the office. She spent the rest of the day in a daze, replaying the conversation over and over in her mind. By the time she got home, the weight of the situation finally sank in. She was unemployed, and the bills wouldn't stop coming just because she had been unfairly dismissed. The next morning, Elena woke up to the sound of her phone buzzing incessantly. Groggy and disoriented, she reached for it and was startled to see dozens of missed calls and messages. Her heart raced as she opened the first message, which was from her younger sister. "Oh my God, Elena, check the news!" it read, followed by a link. With trembling fingers, Elena clicked the link and was greeted by a headline that made her gasp. "Taylor Swift calls out diner for firing kind-hearted waitress." The article detailed how Taylor had shared her experience at the diner on social media, praising Elena for her warmth and kindness, while condemning her unjust termination. The post had gone viral overnight, with thousands of fans expressing outrage and demanding justice for Elena. Stunned, Elena scrolled through the comments, her eyes widening as she read messages of support from people all over the world. Some offered job opportunities while others encouraged her to pursue legal action against the diner. But the biggest shock came later that day when a black SUV pulled up in front of her modest apartment. A well-dressed woman stepped out and introduced herself as one of Taylor Swift's personal assistants. "Elena, Taylor was deeply moved by your story and wants to help," the woman said, handing her an envelope. "Inside, you'll find an invitation to one of her upcoming shows, along with a personal letter. Taylor would love for you to join her backstage." Elena's hands trembled as she opened the envelope. Inside was a beautifully crafted invitation and a heartfelt letter from Taylor, expressing her gratitude and offering support in any way she could. Tears streamed down Elena's face as she read the words, feeling a mix of disbelief and overwhelming gratitude. That evening, Elena's story was featured on every major news outlet. She was invited to interviews, where she shared her journey and spoke about the importance of kindness and standing up for what's right. Her life, which had once felt small and insignificant, was now filled with opportunities she never could have imagined. When the day of Taylor's concert arrived, Elena was treated like a VIP. She met Taylor backstage and the singer embraced her warmly, thanking her once again for her kindness. During the show, Taylor dedicated a song to Elena, calling her an inspiration and a reminder that even small acts of kindness can have a ripple effect. The experience transformed Elena's life. She was offered a job at a high-end restaurant where her talents and work ethic were appreciated. She also started a blog, sharing her story and advocating for fair treatment in the workplace. Her story became a beacon of hope for others facing similar struggles, proving that sometimes life's greatest setbacks can lead to its most extraordinary moments. Looking back, Elena realized that being fired from Rosie's was a blessing in disguise. It had opened doors she never knew existed and connected her with people who genuinely valued her. Most importantly, it reminded her of the power of kindness and the unexpected ways it could change a life. Elena stood in her modest living room, holding Taylor Swift's handwritten letter close to her chest. She still couldn't believe everything that had unfolded over the past few days. The whirlwind of events, from her dismissal at Rosie's to the media frenzy, felt like a dream. But it wasn't a dream. It was real, and for the first time in years, Elena felt like she had a future brimming with possibilities. The next morning, Elena decided to take charge of her new reality. The outpouring of support from people around the world had given her strength and a renewed sense of purpose. She sat at her small dining table, a notebook open in front of her, jotting down plans and ideas. "What now?" she murmured to herself, tapping her pen against the paper. Elena had always dreamed of starting her own business. Growing up, her grandmother had taught her to cook soul food recipes passed down through generations, dishes full of rich, bold flavors and stories. The thought of opening her own cafe or food truck had always lingered in the back of her mind, but she had never had the confidence or resources to make it a reality. Now, with the world's attention on her, she realized this could be her chance. Later that day, Elena received another surprise. Her phone rang, and when she answered, a cheerful voice greeted her. "Hi, Elena, this is Marcus Jensen from the Cedar Brook Community Fund," the man said. "We've been following your story, and we're incredibly inspired by your resilience and positivity. We'd like to meet with you to discuss how we can support your next chapter." Elena's heart raced. The Cedar Brook Community Fund was a local organization dedicated to helping small business owners and entrepreneurs in the area. She quickly agreed to a meeting, and within a few days, she found herself sitting in a sleek conference room, nervously clutching her notebook. Marcus was a tall, friendly man in his early 40s with an infectious energy. He listened intently as Elena shared her vision of opening a soul food cafe, a place where people could enjoy home-cooked meals in a welcoming and inclusive environment. She explained how she wanted the cafe to be a space for the community, hosting events like open mic nights, book clubs, and cooking workshops. Marcus smiled as she spoke. "I love your passion, Elena, and I think your idea has real potential. We'd be honored to help you get started. He explained that the fund could provide her with a small business grant to cover initial costs, along with mentorship and resources to navigate the challenges of running a business. Overwhelmed with gratitude, Elena left the meeting feeling more determined than ever. The next few weeks were a flurry of activity. Elena poured herself into planning, researching everything from permits and suppliers to interior design and branding. She decided to name her cafe Elena's Kitchen, a nod to her grandmother whose recipes and love for cooking had inspired her dream. She enlisted the help of her sister Mia, who had a knack for design, to create a warm and inviting space that reflected their family's heritage. Meanwhile, news of Elena's venture spread like wildfire. Local businesses, touched by her story, offered to help in any way they could. A carpenter volunteered to build custom tables, a florist offered to provide fresh flowers weekly, and a graphic designer created a logo free of charge. The community rallied around her, proving that Cedar Brook was more than just a sleepy town. It was a place where people cared for one another. One afternoon, as Elena was finalizing her menu, her phone buzzed with a text message. It was from Taylor Swift's assistant. "Hi, Elena. Taylor wanted to check in and see how you're doing. She also has a little surprise for you. Can you meet us at the Cedar Brook Theater tomorrow afternoon?" Elena's curiosity was piqued. She hadn't heard from Taylor since the concert, and she wondered what the pop star had planned. The next day, she arrived at the historic Cedar Brook Theater, her palms sweaty with anticipation. The theater was empty except for a small group of people on stage. As Elena approached, she saw Taylor standing in the center, beaming. "Elena!" Taylor called out, walking toward her with open arms. "It's so good to see you!" They hugged, and Taylor gestured for Elena to follow her onto the stage. "I've been thinking about your dream of opening a cafe," Taylor began, her voice warm and earnest. "I wanted to do something to help make that dream a reality." With a dramatic flourish, Taylor pulled back a curtain to reveal a large check with Elena's name on it. The amount was enough to cover not only her startup costs, but also give her a cushion for any unexpected challenges. Elena was speechless. Tears welled up in her eyes as she looked at Taylor, her voice trembling. "I don't even know what to say. Thank you doesn't feel like enough." Taylor smiled and squeezed her hand. "You deserve this, Elena. You've shown the world that kindness matters, and I'm just glad I could play a small part in your journey." Over the next few months, Elena threw herself into bringing her cafe to life. The space was transformed into a cozy haven with rustic wooden tables, colorful artwork, and the mouth-watering aroma of her grandmother's recipes wafting through the air. She hired a small team of employees, including a few friends who had been laid off from Rosie's, determined to create a supportive and respectful work environment. Opening day was a blur of excitement and nerves. A line of eager customers stretched down the block, many of them curious to meet the woman whose story had captured their hearts. Taylor even sent a bouquet of flowers with a note that read, "Here's to new beginnings. Love, Taylor." Elena's Kitchen quickly became a local favorite. People flocked to the cafe not only for the delicious food but also for the sense of community it fostered. Elena hosted regular events, from storytelling nights to charity fundraisers, and the cafe became a hub for creativity and connection. One evening, as Elena was closing up, an elderly woman approached her. She introduced herself as Mrs. Porter and explained that she had been coming to the cafe every week since it opened. "I just wanted to thank you," Mrs. Porter said, her voice thick with emotion. "Your cafe has brought so much joy to this town. It's more than just a place to eat. It's a place where people feel seen and heard. You've given us a gift, Elena." Elena was deeply moved by the woman's words. In that moment, she realized that her journey was about more than overcoming her own struggles. It was about creating something meaningful for others, a legacy of love and resilience. The months turned into years, and Elena's Kitchen continued to thrive. Elena herself grew into a confident and accomplished business owner, often invited to speak at events about her journey and the power of community. She never forgot where she came from or the people who had helped her along the way, including Taylor Swift, whose unexpected act of kindness had set everything into motion. Looking back, Elena knew that being fired from Rosie's was the best thing that had ever happened to her. It had been a painful and humiliating experience at the time, but it had pushed her to take a leap of faith and embrace her true potential. She had turned a moment of adversity into an opportunity to build something beautiful, a place where everyone, regardless of their background, could come together over a shared love of good food and good company. As she locked up the cafe one quiet evening, Elena paused to reflect on how far she had come. Her grandmother's recipes, once a comforting reminder of home, had become a symbol of her perseverance and strength. She felt a profound sense of gratitude for the journey that had led her here. A journey that began with a simple act of kindness and unfolded into a story of hope, transformation, and endless possibilities. As the months rolled by, Elena's life continued to blossom in ways she had never thought possible. Every morning, the sound of chatter and laughter filled Elena's kitchen as locals and visitors alike crowded in for a taste of her famous soul food. The cafe had become more than just a business. It was a symbol of resilience, hope, and the power of community. People came from all over to see the place that Taylor Swift had personally supported, and to meet the woman behind the inspiring story. But while the cafe was thriving, Elena knew she couldn't stop there. She had begun to think about how her newfound platform could make an even bigger impact. It wasn't just about feeding people. It was about creating opportunities for those who, like her, had faced setbacks and needed a chance to start over. One morning, as she sipped her coffee and scanned through her growing list of ideas, a new thought struck her. A culinary training program for young adults who struggled to find their footing in life. Elena quickly got to work fleshing out her vision. She wanted the program to teach essential cooking and hospitality skills, but more importantly, she wanted it to instill confidence and provide a safe space for people to grow. She planned to offer workshops, mentorships, and hands-on training, partnering with local businesses to ensure her trainees had real opportunities to secure meaningful employment after completing the program. By the end of the week, Elena had drafted a detailed proposal and reached out to the Cedarbrook Community Fund once again. Marcus, who had been one of her earliest supporters, was thrilled by the idea. "Elena, this is exactly the kind of initiative our community needs," he said during their meeting. "We'll do everything we can to help you bring it to life." With their backing, Elena secured a grant to renovate a small section of her cafe into a training kitchen. She also enlisted the help of local chefs and hospitality professionals to design a curriculum. The program, which she named Second Chance's Culinary Academy, would run in 6-month cycles with each session accommodating up to 10 participants. Elena decided to prioritize applicants from underprivileged backgrounds, those who had experienced homelessness, or individuals recently released from incarceration. She wanted to give them the same opportunity she had been given, a chance to rebuild their lives and find their purpose. When word of the academy spread, applications poured in. Elena carefully reviewed each one, deeply moved by the stories of resilience and determination. From a young single mother, trying to provide for her child, to a man in his 40s seeking redemption after serving time, each applicant carried a unique story of struggle and hope. After much deliberation, Elena selected her first cohort and prepared to launch the program. On the first day of training, Elena stood before her group, a mix of nervous and eager faces looking back at her. She shared her own story, not holding back on the hardships she had faced and the lessons she had learned. "This program isn't just about cooking," she told them. "It's about believing in yourselves, even when others don't. It's about taking every setback and turning it into an opportunity. You're here because you have potential, and together, we're going to unlock it." The room erupted in applause, and from that moment, the bond between Elena and her trainees was sealed. The following weeks were filled with long hours of chopping, stirring, baking, and plating. Elena watched with pride as her students gained confidence, not just in their culinary skills, but in themselves. They worked tirelessly, learning everything from knife techniques to customer service, and supporting each other through challenges. One of the trainees, a quiet young man named Jamal, stood out to Elena. He had joined the program after spending years in foster care and struggling with homelessness. At first, he seemed reserved and hesitant, but as the weeks went on, his talent and passion for cooking began to shine through. One afternoon, during a practice run for a catering event, Jamal prepared a dish that left everyone in awe: his grandmother's recipe for spicy Cajun gumbo. "This is incredible," Elena told him, her eyes wide with admiration. "You've got a gift, Jamal. You should be proud." Jamal's face lit up with a smile that Elena knew was rare. "Thank you," he said softly. "It feels good to be doing something that matters." By the time the first session of the academy concluded, All 10 participants had secured jobs in local restaurants or bakeries. At the graduation ceremony, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. Each trainee received a certificate, along with heartfelt words from Elena, who reminded them that this was just the beginning of their journeys. The success of the academy drew even more attention to Elena's work. Journalists from national outlets came to interview her, eager to share her story with a wider audience. One evening, as she was tidying up the cafe, she received a phone call that left her speechless. A representative from a major television network was on the line, inviting her to appear on a popular talk show to discuss her journey and the impact of her cafe and academy. Elena hesitated at first. The idea of speaking in front of millions of viewers was daunting, but she knew it was an opportunity to inspire others and spread her message of resilience and kindness. After some encouragement from Mia and her team, she agreed to do it. The day of the taping was a whirlwind. Dressed in a stylish yet comfortable outfit, Elena stepped onto the brightly lit stage, her heart pounding as the audience erupted in applause. The host, a charismatic and kind woman named Valerie, greeted her warmly and led her through a conversation that felt more like a friendly chat than an interview. "Elena, your story has touched so many people," Valerie said. "From being fired under unfair circumstances to building a thriving business, and now giving back to the community through your academy? It's truly inspiring. What motivates you to keep pushing forward?" Elena smiled, her nerves easing as she spoke from the heart. "I've learned that our greatest challenges often lead us to our greatest opportunities. I want people to know that no matter how hard life gets, there's always a way to rise above it. And when we come together as a community, we can achieve incredible things." The audience erupted into cheers and applause, and Elena felt a surge of pride and gratitude. After the show aired, messages poured in from people across the country, many sharing their own stories of overcoming adversity and finding hope in her words. Back in Cedarbrook, life carried on, but the cafe and academy continued to grow and thrive. Elena expanded her menu to include dishes inspired by her trainees' cultural backgrounds, celebrating diversity and creating a space where everyone felt represented. She also launched a scholarship fund to help her graduates pursue further education or start their own businesses. One summer afternoon, as Elena was hosting a community potluck at the cafe, she looked around at the bustling crowd, families, friends, and former trainees laughing and sharing stories over plates of delicious food. Her heart swelled with joy and fulfillment. She realized that her journey, while full of unexpected twists and challenges, had led her exactly where she was meant to be. In the years that followed, Elena's Kitchen became a beloved institution in Cedarbrook, a place where people came not just for the food, but for the sense of belonging and hope it offered. Elena herself continued to advocate for fairness and kindness, both in the workplace and beyond. She traveled to schools, conferences, and community centers, sharing her story and inspiring others to embrace the power of resilience and compassion. Through it all, Elena never lost sight of the simple truth that had guided her from the beginning. Kindness has the power to change lives. And in her case, it had transformed not only her own life, but the lives of countless others, proving that even the smallest act of kindness can spark a ripple effect that reaches far beyond what anyone could imagine. Elena's success became a catalyst for further transformation, not just in her own life, but throughout the entire town of Cedarbrook. The once quiet town was now buzzing with renewed energy, attracting visitors from across the state and beyond who came to experience the warmth of Elena's Kitchen and witness the story that had inspired so many. Local businesses began to thrive as tourism increased, and Cedarbrook started to evolve into a vibrant hub of culture and connection. Despite her busy schedule, Elena never forgot the small moments that had brought her to this point. She frequently visited the farmers market early in the morning, greeting the vendors with the same warmth she offered her customers. These trips weren't just about sourcing the freshest ingredients for her cafe. They were a reminder of the community that had rallied around her when she needed it most. One day, as she browsed through bushels of fresh greens and ripe tomatoes, an elderly vendor named Mr. Harris stopped her. "You've done something special here, Elena," he said, his voice rough but kind. "This town feels alive again because of you." Elena smiled, touched by his words. "I think it's because of all of us, Mr. Harris. We've built something together." The conversation lingered in Elena's mind as she returned to the cafe. It reinforced her belief that her success was not hers alone. It was the product of collective effort, shared dreams, and mutual support. That evening, as she sat at her desk going through the day's receipts, she began to consider how she could give back even more to the community that had given her so much. The answer came in the form of a community food drive. Elena envisioned a large-scale event that would bring people together to address food insecurity in the area. She reached out to local organizations, grocery stores, and volunteers, and within weeks, the project began to take shape. The event, dubbed Cedar Brook Feeds, would be hosted at the town square, featuring live music, cooking demonstrations, and of course, delicious food provided by Elena's kitchen. The day of the food drive arrived with clear skies and a palpable sense of excitement. Families, students, and elderly residents gathered in the square, their arms laden with bags of canned goods, fresh produce, and other donations. Elena stood at the center of it all, her heart swelling as she watched people come together for a common cause. By the end of the day, they had collected enough food to fill the town's food bank for months. As the sun set and the last of the volunteers packed up, a young woman approached Elena. She introduced herself as Rachel, a single mother who had been struggling to make ends meet. "Thank you for doing this," Rachel said, her voice filled with emotion. "The food bank has helped my family so much, and seeing everyone come together like this gives me hope." Elena reached out and squeezed Rachel's hand. "We're all in this together," she said, "and I'm here to help however I can." The interaction stayed with Elena long after the event ended. She realized that while one-time initiatives like food drives were impactful, there was more she could do to create lasting change. That night, she began drafting plans for a new project, a community pantry housed within her cafe. The pantry would provide free groceries and basic necessities to those in need, no questions asked. It would operate on a take what you need, leave what you can basis, encouraging both giving and receiving. The idea quickly gained traction, with local businesses and residents eager to contribute. Within weeks, the community pantry was up and running, a small but powerful addition to Elena's kitchen. It became a lifeline for many, offering dignity and support to those facing tough times. Elena often caught glimpses of people discreetly taking items, their expressions a mix of gratitude and relief. Each time, her heart ached with compassion, but she also felt a deep sense of fulfillment knowing she was making a tangible difference. As her impact grew, so did her opportunities to share her story on larger platforms. One day, she received an invitation to speak at a national conference on entrepreneurship and social impact. The event, held in a sprawling convention center in Chicago, was unlike anything she had ever experienced. Elena felt a mix of nerves and excitement as she stepped onto the stage, facing an audience of hundreds. She began her speech by recounting the moment she had been fired from Rosie's, a moment that at the time felt like the end of her world. But as she spoke about the journey that followed, the support from Taylor Swift, the opening of her cafe, and the creation of her culinary academy, she emphasized the power of resilience and the importance of turning adversity into opportunity. "Every setback is a setup for a comeback," she said, her voice steady and confident. "And when we lift each other up, we create ripples of change that reach far beyond what we can see." The audience erupted into applause, and Elena felt a surge of pride and gratitude. After her talk, dozens of people approached her, eager to learn more about her work and share their own stories of triumph and perseverance. Among them was a young woman named Priya, who had recently started a nonprofit aimed at supporting women in the hospitality industry. "You're such an inspiration, Elena," Priya said, her eyes shining. "Hearing your story makes me believe that I can achieve my goals too." Elena smiled, encouraged by Priya's enthusiasm. "You absolutely can," she said. "And remember, it's not about doing it alone. Lean on your community. They're your greatest strength." Over the next few years, Elena continued to expand her initiatives. She launched a mobile kitchen that traveled to underserved areas, providing free meals and cooking workshops. She also partnered with local schools to create programs that taught kids about healthy eating and the joys of cooking. Her efforts earned her numerous awards and recognition, but for Elena, the real reward was seeing the lives she touched and the smiles she helped create. One afternoon, as she walked through the cafe, she noticed Jamal, one of her first trainees, sitting at a table with a group of his own apprentices. Now a successful sous chef at a prestigious restaurant, Jamal had returned to Elena's kitchen to mentor the next generation of culinary talent. "You've come a long way, Jamal," Elena said, beaming with pride. He looked up and grinned. "Only because you believed in me first," he replied. "Now it's my turn to pass it on." Elena's heart swelled with emotion as she watched Jamal interact with his trainees, his passion and dedication evident in every word. It was moments like these that reminded her of the incredible journey she had undertaken and the countless lives she had touched along the way. As the years passed, Elena's kitchen became a legacy, a symbol of hope and transformation. Cedarbrook had grown into a thriving community, shaped by the kindness and resilience that Elena had championed. And while the world around her continued to change, one thing remained constant: the power of kindness to create a brighter, better future. If you liked this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, could you leave your comments below and tell us? What are your thoughts on the waitress being fired for helping Taylor Swift? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.